and welcome to Talk to Downtown. My name is Courtney Wood. I'm the Economic Development Director for the Downtown Stockton Alliance, the 501c6 nonprofit property-based business improvement district serving downtown Stockton. This series is intended to connect our business owners, property owners, visitors, and residents with the organizations, people, and resources which impact our community. Today we have special guest Howard Chang. He is the CEO of Ava Community Energy. We'll have Howard share a little bit about himself, his background, and how he came to work for Ava. Then I'll go through a list of questions that I've outlined for him. And at the end, we will open it up for viewer questions. So if you do have a question, please type it in as a comment and we will get to it towards the end of the live. And with that, welcome, Howard. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to work for Ava Community Energy.
Absolutely. Hi, Courtney, and thanks so much for having me here with you today. Really excited to speak with you and all of your listeners and viewers as well. And really excited, of course, to share more information about Ava Community Energy now that we're actively serving electricity to all of the city of Stockton, all of its residences and businesses. Happy to start with a little bit about myself personally. I've been with our agency for almost 8 years now, so I know our agency pretty well. I actually started my career in finance. So I worked across a few different functions, accounting, controls, investment banking as well. And after working there, this is over 20 years ago for a number of years, I wanted to transition to a field that I was a little bit more passionate about on a personal level and a little bit more mission aligned with. And so I made a decision to transition to renewable energy and specifically get into solar development. So I was doing work specifically at both a commercial scale as well as at a utility scale. So everything from smaller systems on, say, school tops to large solar farms. And that work was both in California as well as other parts of the US. After doing that for a number of years, I saw the great progress and the benefits that solar energy was bringing to various folks. We were making great strides and reductions in the costs and installation of solar projects. And in California specifically, we were seeing great successes of that increase. And I could see some of the challenges also arising specifically with load serving entities, so utility providers and such, in terms of increasing that solar energy, right? And the challenge is you're getting a lot of that energy in the middle of the day and managing some of the intermittency related to renewable energy. And so it was a great opportunity in 2017 to help join Ava Community Energy. Then it was called East Bay Community Energy, and really help launch the public agency and think about some of the greater complexities and nuances that it takes to really build a portfolio of energy resources to provide electricity affordably and reliably to customers. And when that opportunity came up, I just couldn't pass it up. It was a unique opportunity to join a new agency, help launch it, and really help build a portfolio of energy resources from scratch. And it's been a great opportunity, great experience ever since.
Awesome. So a background in finance, a lot of experience with solar, and you really love working with renewable energy. And can you tell us now about Ava? So what is Ava Community Energy? Why was this organization started? What is the mission? And what areas do you serve?
Yeah, this is a question I get asked a lot as people get introduced to Ava Community Energy. So first of all, I'll say we're a public agency and a nonprofit. And specifically, we're called a CCA, or a community choice aggregator. And that's something that is not just unique to California. That is something that occurs in probably over a dozen states throughout the country. In California, our sort of flavor of that basically says that if you're a municipality, if you're a city, or if you're a county, you can form your own energy provider. And that's allowed because we're governmental entities. We can do it at a lower cost because we're tax exempt. And so that's the sort of the structure of our type of agency, again, called the CCA. We launched back in 2017. We launched first with Alameda County and the cities within Alameda County. And it was just a few years later in 2021 when we expanded, not just more fully in Alameda County, but actually expanded into San Joaquin County for the first time, and that would be the city of Tracy. And the most recently, of course, we added city of Stockton and city of Lathrop. So really excited about not just serving Alameda County, but broadening out and serving San Joaquin County. Next year, we're actually going to go further into unincorporated San Joaquin County. So we're really sort of getting greater scale. We're showing the benefits of what we're able to do to provide electricity to our customers. And excited to be able to serve San Joaquin County and City of Stockton as of today. In total, we have 18 members across the various cities and counties that we do serve. And our mission is really focused on providing clean and affordable energy to our customers. And that's all businesses, residents, commercial, industrial customers, as well as the city accounts as well. About how do we drive down electricity costs at a time where customers are really burdened by the high electricity rates? And how do we do so while still thinking about decarbonization and providing clean energy?
Thank you. And can you kind of explain what you mean by clean energy or renewable energy, just in case anyone listening, isn't sure what that means?
Absolutely. Clean energy is something that we just sort of throw around a little bit. What we're really focused on is energy that is GHG free or low in GHG emissions, GHG being greenhouse gas emissions, but as well as low in air pollutants, right? So making sure that the air quality that people are breathing in is as clean as it possibly can be. We're generally referring to things like large hydro and renewable energy. And renewable energy in California is a bit more specific and prescribed, and that's by sort of policy and regulation. So renewable energy here in California specifically, solar, wind, geothermal, biomass, and even in some cases, small hydro. So some of that is a little definitional, but usually clean energy is sort of a blanket term that we use to cover renewable energy, large hydro, things that are low in GHG emissions and low in air pollution.
Thank you. And so we have Ava as our guest today because you are now the default electricity provider for the city of Stockton. Can you explain what does that mean and how that process of providing electricity to our community works?
Absolutely. So, historically, of course, everyone in the city of Stockton received their power from PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric. There was no real choice in who you received electricity from. As of April, when Ava Community Energy launched, we are now providing the electricity generation services to all customers throughout the city of Stockton. And that's a change, right? This is a unique opportunity where customers now have some level of choice. It's not just choice because we do have a variety of energy products that we can offer. And it's also a choice between Ava Community Energy and PG&E. And while customers have now defaulted into our service, they do have that option to opt out and return to PG&E service. So that's an important aspect of providing choice, hence our name, community choice aggregation, in providing multiple options for customers to choose from. Specifically, how does it work? I mean, we're out there basically building a portfolio of energy resources, just as any large energy provider would be doing. So we're putting in short-term contracts, long-term contracts to buy a lot of power at scale to help bring down the cost of that power as much as we can. We're using our tax-exempt status to think about ways to finance that energy and make sure we're doing that as cost-effectively as possible. And ultimately, we're getting large projects built, generation projects, solar projects, wind projects, et cetera, battery projects to get built, not just in our service territory within San Joaquin County and Alameda County, but also more broadly in California and even just outside California to ensure that we have as big of a portfolio of resources, as diverse a portfolio of resources as possible, so that we can make sure that we're providing that electricity affordably and reliably.
Wonderful. And what led to Ava becoming Stockton's default electricity provider, and when did that come about? If you can share about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it started as early as September in 2020. So going on about 5 years ago, where Stockton expressed initial interest in the CCA model. And actually at that time, the city council commissioned a feasibility study. It was championed by a former council member, Dan Wright, who used to sit on our board prior to terming out of city council for City Stockton. And that sort of kicked off a formal effort for the city and various consultants that they had to really look at the CCA model and really evaluate what is this? Are there benefits of CCAs and what can that provide for the city of Stockton and all of the businesses and residents throughout the city? And that process obviously engaged Ava Community Energy because the options were, of course, to form its own CCA or to join an existing CCA. And there are a number of CCAs throughout the state of California. There's actually a total of 25 that are in different regions. So we are serving this region, of course, and in doing that feasibility study, I think the city of Stockton found that there were benefits in joining an established CCA. Obviously, we're still a relatively young public agency. We've been around for about 10 years, but to join a CCA that's been around for that long, we've been able to build a very strong balance sheet. We're able to get a credit rating ourselves, an A rating. So we are an investment grade entity ourselves. So we're able to go and transact and work with other businesses and counterparties to ensure that we can get the best terms possible and lower the costs for our customers. And that was a long process that Stockton looked at, evaluated, and ultimately the city itself voted to join our CCA. So they are one of 18 members, as I noted before, to receive service from our community choice aggregator.
Thank you. Thanks for explaining that process. Why do you think more communities are choosing Ava as the default provider? And is there any sort of cost savings to the end user?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. That's always one of the first questions that we're asked, why was Ava formed? And, as I referenced, there are 25 CCAs throughout the state of California. So this is becoming a very, very popular and common movement where customers are receiving power from a CCA while also receiving some services from their existing investor-owned utility, in our case, PG&E in this area. And that popularity has grown over the last 20 years or so. So we've seen new CCAs form and develop in different regions based off of the needs and the desires of those particular cities and counties. In our particular case, what I would highlight, of course, is a huge focus on cost savings and clean energy. And for us, our big focus is trying to provide rates at a competitive or lower rate than PG&E. And this is specifically on the generation portion of the bill and the cost. So for our Bright Choice product, we're at a 5% discount relative to PG&E. And again, we're able to do that because we can buy at scale. We can utilize our tax exempt status to try to lower those costs. And that's been a huge focus for why cities are interested in CCAs in general. In total, I'm really proud to say that we provided about $150 million in savings to our customers just over the last 7 years of providing service. Obviously, we're new to Stockton, so we're excited to be able to provide that discount to them as well. But we're off to a great start here, obviously starting in April.
Thank you. So it sounds like people are switching, or cities are switching because they want to focus more on clean energy, but also there is a cost savings in the end.
Exactly.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, we understand there's, of course, that important balance. Part of the CCA priority is really finding ways to decarbonize our electricity supply and think about how do you procure more renewable energy, but do it in a really responsible and affordable manner and ensure that you're balancing that with a variety of resources that can ensure that electricity is getting to our customers at all hours and in a reliable and affordable manner. You can't do that without thinking about the cost implications and what is important there. We know that customers are struggling with higher bills these days, so we're trying to find every avenue we can to lower those bills.
Definitely. So Ava has 2 service plans for residences, the Bright Choice and the Renewable 100. Can you please tell us about those plans? What are the benefits and how can people enroll in them?
Absolutely. Yeah. As I noted before, we're about choice, so we want to be able to provide different options. And we know that different consumers have different preferences. In the city of Stockton, in most of our cities, they default all of the customers to a product called Bright Choice. And Bright Choice is about 75 to 80% clean energy. So that's a mix of renewable energy, large hydro. And then we do layer in sort of system power on top of that to make sure that there's some diversity in that supply mix. And that product is at a 5% discount to PG&E for its generation portion of the bill. That's been a really key part. We really focus on that, what we call that value proposition, how we set that discount, and finding ways to try to at least increase that. I will note that over the years, that's kind of ranged between 1% and 5%. So that'll kind of just depend on where market prices are at and what we're able to do. But at all times, we have been able to provide a discount on that particular product. So that's Bright Choice. There's a separate product called Renewable 100. And as its name clearly states, it is 100% renewable energy. So that's a mix of solar, wind, geothermal, but entirely renewable 100, entirely renewable energy. And that product is actually at a modest premium to PG&E. It's entirely green and clean, and is at a quarter-cent premium to PG&E rate. So quarter-cent per kilowatt hour premium. And that equates to a few percentage points above. So it's a modest premium. And we have had about a third of our cities actually elect to default their customers onto that premium product.
Wow.
With a real focus on thinking about the clean energy aspects and that priority. But again, customers have that choice always to opt down or opt up, in addition, of course, the default service that is chosen by the city.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. And do businesses have access to the same two plans?
Yes, absolutely. So all commercial, industrial, and residential customers all have access to these two different energy products, we call them. Of course, they are on different rates. Our rate structure does mirror the PG&E rate structure so that we're not trying to add any more complexity or confusion to that process. But basically, when you look at your existing rate structure, you would look at the actual power mix and then that discount that I talked about applied to that rate structure.
Awesome. And so if someone does want to make a change to their plan, can you just tell us where do they go? How can they do that?
Absolutely. So if you go to our website, avaenergy.org, there's a wealth of information on there, of course. And in that website, there are you can see the education and the options around opting up, opting down, opting out. We try to make it as clear as possible. We want to be transparent. We want to make sure customers understand they do have this choice to return to PG&E service. We find that very few customers do elect to do that, given that we are providing cleaner energy at a discounted rate. But of course, that option is there, and we want to make sure we encourage customers to be well informed to understand what's happening in terms of this transition of services. But you can go to the website. You can do it through an online web form. You'll also find a phone number that you can call into and make sure that if you prefer to do a voice call, you can obviously call in and make that same choice as well.
Thank you. So if you're looking to make a change, you can just visit their website or give Ava a call. And I want to now show a demonstration. I'm hoping you can walk us through a sample energy bill so that we can kind of explain a little more what people are seeing on their bills, so that you can kind of help us understand what each of the charges are, what they're for.
Absolutely. I'm happy to walk through some of the basics of this bill and some of the changes. Hopefully I don't bore your audience too much and put them to sleep. It's rare that people want to be walked through an electricity bill. We know it's not exactly the funnest process, but as I noted before, we want to be as transparent as possible and really help inform our customers about what's happening here. So what you have here is just a sort of an example sample bill that you would see from PG&E. And the thing I want to be clear about is bills are notoriously complicated. If you look at your electricity bill, not a lot of people do. There's a lot of pages there. There's a lot of line items. There's a lot of detail. And unfortunately, we hear often from our various customers, it's hard to really read and understand what the charges are, what that relates to when you talk about natural gas, delivery, generation service, all of that. The bad news is we're not in a position to revamp that bill. We think there's an opportunity to obviously make the bill easier to read. The good news is with this change to Ava Community Energy Services, the changes are very, very minimal and very, very simple and relatively straightforward. So typically what you would have seen in an old bill prior to receiving Ava Community Energy Service is one line item that basically encapsulates both the delivery charges and the generation charges. And that's being highlighted here in items B and C. And now that you're receiving generation services from Ava Community Energy, they break it out basically. So there's a PG&E delivery charge, which is highlighted by item B, and then there's an Ava Community Energy electric generation charge, which is highlighted in C. I want to be clear, this is not an additional charge. It's not a double charge. This is just a breakdown of what would have been a PG&E generation charge previously, and now that's being replaced with an Ava Community Energy charge. And as I noted, that's the portion of the bill that is specifically getting that 5% discount if you're on Bright Choice service. So you can see that right on page 1 of your bill. There are a couple of other relatively minor changes in other parts of the bill that sort of highlight this nuance as well. And you can see exactly how our charge breaks down relative to what it would have been otherwise. So that's kind of the simplicity of the change here, at least.
Thank you. Thanks for kind of giving us this visual example. I hope that kind of clears up any confusion or questions people might have had about why they have, one charge from PG&E and a different charge from Ava. So hopefully that explains it for everybody. And there are several programs which can help individuals make energy updates to their homes. Can you tell us a little bit about a few of those updates and why they might want to consider doing that?
Absolutely. Obviously, we've talked a lot about our sort of wholesale electricity service and what we're doing there. And that's obviously the primary way that we engage with all of our customers. But I think where we really want to differentiate and engage with our communities is more on the programs and services. That's where you really have an opportunity to kind of talk to customers, talk about the opportunities to reduce your costs, become more efficient, electrify, go greener, things like that. And so let me just talk about a few examples of that, both on the sort of small scale side of things and of course on the larger scale side of things. So some tips or things that customers can consider go as simple as, say, LED light bulbs and energy efficiency, right? So these are really small dollar investments, really simple technologies. These days, you'll probably see more LED light bulbs at your hardware store than your old traditional light bulbs. They're super energy efficient. They're just as effective. You can go out and swap those. Easy way to reduce your costs modestly and become a little more efficient in what you're doing. Another way to do that is actually with no dollar investment. You can think about when you're using your electricity, right? So in your peak hours, and that would be 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. traditionally for customers, that's the most expensive time of the day to basically be using electricity. And that's because traditionally everyone's coming back from work, they're starting to run their AC, they're turning on their lights, they're doing their laundry, they're doing their cooking. So that's when demand is generally always the highest. And it happens to coincide with the time when solar energy is also ramping down in the state of California. So that tends to be that time frame when the power is most expensive for customers. And so an easy thing to do, at least from a cost perspective, easy is to try to shift that as much as you can. Obviously, some of those activities are really challenging to shift, but if you're choosing to run your dishwasher at a certain time, it's best to avoid those hours. If you're looking to run your washer or dryer at a particular time, optimal not to do that those hours. If you're charging electric vehicles, optimal not to do it those hours. So that's just a little tip to how to save a little bit on your electricity bill in those hours. On the larger side of things, of course, you can think about electrification of some of your appliances, right? Whether it's a heat pump water heater instead of a traditional gas water heater. That is a way to sort of help become a little bit more energy efficient, try to reduce some of your general electricity costs by switching from a gas water heater to a heat pump water heater. And you can even think bigger scale, think about solar and storage. A lot of residences or commercial entities will have a solar installed on their rooftops, maybe even a battery installed on site that will help with resilience, also help to try to green your energy supply and bring down some of your costs. So obviously that is a much bigger investment. It's an upfront investment. So it's a bigger evaluation process. We have an electrification guide on our website that talks about all of these things from kind of the smaller scale stuff to the bigger scale stuff. It also talks about different tips and options, whether you're a renter, if you're a homeowner, if you're a landlord. Obviously, we realize there are different types of things that you may want to consider doing depending on the type of user you are in that situation. So we hope this is an area that we can really help to engage a little bit more with our customers and our community to talk about what the options are and help educate them on ways to get a little greener as well as to lower their electricity costs.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for giving us some tips on how to lower our bill. Can you share, there are some financial programs that can help assist people if they need to make some of those larger upgrades that you were talking about. Can you tell us what are some of those incentives or financial assistance programs available, and how can people learn about that?
Yes, thanks for highlighting that. I see that you have the link right there on the website. We have a tool on our website that is an incentive finder. There are a lot of incentives out there. We know that's hard to navigate. In addition to just educating yourself on what these different, measures are that you can do, small scale, large scale, there's a lot of money out there that the state and the federal government has provided to try to push people towards cleaner, more efficient technologies. And so you can go to this link and you can put in your zip code, you can put in your income levels. It's all anonymous, so we're not pulling that data for our purpose for any reason. You can put in that information to sort of describe your household, and it'll actually pop up a list of 10, 20, 30, even 40 different types of incentives that you may be eligible for from various parties. Some of those incentives are actually coming directly from Ava Community Energy. Some of that is from the state of California and different organizations that are specific to your area. And you can evaluate and just confirm if those are truly available to you, depending on what that sort of measure you may be considering for electrification or otherwise. So it's a great tool that we've been able to pull together to make sure we help our customers sort of navigate the opportunities out there and find ways to get some of the dollars that are out there to bring down your costs.
Yeah, that's wonderful to have that funding to make some of those upgrades, so definitely check that out. You also have commercial building energy saving projects and incentives. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Absolutely. Energy efficiency obviously is a big area of focus because it's one of the easiest ways to reduce one's costs. Our program is specifically focused on the commercial space. It's a program that we call the Building Efficiency Accelerator. It's a small program in terms of number of customers, but really looking at large energy users. So right now we have about 20 of our largest commercial industrial customers in that program, evaluating all the options that they have to sort of implement some efficiency measures within their various building spaces. The nice part about that program is we're leveraging a lot of public dollars that are out there. So this is just an opportunity, an example of ways that we find to try to reduce costs without using our own balance sheet, our own dollars, right? So we're looking at state-based funds and things like that we can utilize to help benefit our customers. I will say that right now that program is closed off to new customers. We're trying to work through this stuff in phases, as we typically will do with these programs. And once we have the interested customers in the program itself, we'll evaluate the various measures that they can take, make recommendations, and then help them to implement those various measures. So that's one example. The other thing I'll highlight is heat pump water heaters is something that we're focused on. It's a way to help electrify your water heating capabilities. We do have an active incentive available for that. And so folks can go on our website and look at that rebate. And that is look to target commercial entities. Residential customers are also eligible for that, though. And it's really sized based off of the size of the appliance itself and the size of your building space, but it can cover upwards of 100% of that cost. So that is a program that's out there right now. We're really excited about finding these different ways to enable customers to better understand some of the electrification tools and appliances out there, and of course ways to reduce those costs, as I've been saying.
That's wonderful for commercial customers, to have that incentive available to them. So can you now talk about solar panel installation? How does that work with Ava?
Absolutely. So Ava itself is not out there installing solar panels for customers. I want to be clear about that. We're generally a power provider thinking about electricity supply. And of course, as I noted earlier, we do have a lot of programs and services, so we want to help educate our customers, but we're not a solar installer. There are, of course, a large number of California-based kind of local installers out there that can assist different residences or commercial customers, businesses, et cetera, if they're interested in installing solar at their specific building. But if they're interested in doing that, they can continue to do that and still be an Ava customer, of course. We have the same net energy metering sort of rate structure that PG&E offers. So customers continue to go out there, talk to installers, and those options are the same options that they previously had. So they can do an installation, pay for it all cash up front. They can get some form of financing or do a power purchase agreement or a PPA type structure with an installer. Those same things are available to customers today, just as they were before, and they would be on Ava's NEM structure, which really mirrors the same PG&E structure. The thing that I will highlight is that there have been changes from a state level to go from what's referred to as NEM 2 to what's commonly referred to as NEM 3, also known as solar billing tariff. So the the rate structures have evolved over the years. They've evolved due to legislation and some of the CPUC provisions that have set what that looks like. And that's evolved because there's been so much more solar installed in the state of California. They want to continue to ensure that the rate structures make sense. So there have been some changes over the course of the last year or so that do reduce the export credit that customers get because they're generating solar energy at times where they're not actually using all that electricity. They're actually provided that to the grid itself. And typically a customer would get paid some amount of money for delivering to the grid. And that rate has come down. That's not a reflection of Ava making those changes, but really that was a state decision. So whether you're a PG&E customer or an Ava customer, you've seen that change over the course of the last couple of years.
I see. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for explaining that a little more, just in case anyone's curious, how does solar panel installation work now that I have Ava? So Ava Energy, you guys do give back to the communities that you serve. Which Stockton programs will Ava be contributing to?
So there are a lot of programs that we try to offer out there to all of our customers. And obviously I noted there's different phasing of sorts. So on the programmatic side, we currently have a few programs active. One is called our managed charging program. So all customers throughout our territory right now can actually enroll in that program. There are some incentives associated with that program that deal with sort of how and when you charge your electric vehicle. We have an e-bike incentive program that we're looking to launch just in the next, hopefully the next month or so. We've got about $10 million of funding that we're trying to disperse to customers that are interested in buying an e-bike. Those are at different levels. If you're a care or fair designation, which is a lower income designation, or a non-care and fair customer, but those are pretty significant and substantial incentives that we're putting out there. So those are an example of a couple of the programs that we have out there, either active or soon to be active, and you can find more information about those things on our website. We're also engaging in different sort of opportunities, fairs, festivals out there, and trying to sponsor some of the events that are out there. So, for example, we sponsor the Stockton Ports, we sponsor Stockton Cargo, some of the local sports teams, Stockton Ports, obviously baseball, Stockton Cargo and soccer. We're also members of the Chamber of Commerce, the San Joaquin County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and there's a ton of community events and festivals that we try to go and participate in. We were sponsors of the Asparagus Festival, the Cinco de Mayo Festival. Upcoming, we're going to be at the Juneteenth Festival. We're going to be at the Stockton Cargo versus the Pleasanton Rage game. So we're finding different ways to be out there to sponsor these great organizations outside of the sort of the energy programs. And that's obviously a great benefit because we're helping to support great organizations and great events that are really important for the community members. And it's obviously a great opportunity for us to get out there, get our name out there, help educate on who we are, and answer people's questions that they have. Just like you're asking these questions, we have a lot of customers coming by our tables and booths and asking questions about who we are, what are the changes and such. So we love that opportunity to engage with our customers.
I love to hear that. We love the ports over here, so it's awesome that you're, sponsoring them, and great to hear that you're supporting some of our other local festivals and events. It's just awesome. Good work. So, can you tell us now about Ava Energy's community investment grants? Which grant applications are currently open, and who can apply?
Absolutely. So we have, for a number of years now, issued what we call community investment grants. Those are generally to businesses or community-based organizations that help to facilitate some of the programs and services that we're trying to invest in. Those are things related to workforce development, clean energy education, local resilience, access to electric mobility and charging and things like that. And there's a particular focus in sort of historically underserved areas. So that's the sort of the high level of what we're trying to do with those community investment grants. We've committed about $7 million over the last several years, and kind of going forward in terms of the commitments that have been made to fund various partners to do that work. One example is the Emerald Cities Collaborative and Little Manila Rising. So those are local organizations in Stockton. They're helping with some of our resilience effort to really ask our community members about what are the types of resilience services that would be important for you if there is a blackout, if there's a natural disaster. How can we support that? How can we support the city and the customers and the communities in ensuring that you have the energy that you need in these sort of critical times of stress? And so that's a resilience program that's still in the early days, but we're working with great partners there to really help evaluate the needs of the communities, the types of services, the locations, and how we could facilitate more resilience hubs and offerings like that. We also have a grant with the Rising Sun Center for Opportunity. They're actually leading a clean energy youth workforce development program. So that's really looking at providing training and paid externships for young people, specifically in San Joaquin County, and helping to build pathways into green careers. So just a couple of examples there. Right now, there's not an active community innovation grant sort of offering right there. There's active programs that are underway, but not an active application process. But we are in a planning process, as we typically offer this each year. We'll kind of look at these grants that run for anywhere from 1 to 3 years and upwards about $300,000. So these are pretty meaningful dollars for these types of organizations, and certainly meaningful work that we're asking for them to help support so that we can ensure that our agency can really understand the needs of the community out there. And I think that we found it best and most efficient to really work with those local organizations to help facilitate that engagement. So look out for something, I think, in the fall. We're still in the design phase for what we're going to plan to do going into the sort of the back half of this year. But we traditionally offer those grants in that time frame, at least for the application time frame.
Thank you. And it's great to hear that you're already working with some wonderful organizations. If there are any other organizations that think they might want to, talk with you about what you can do to help what they're doing in our city, how can they start that conversation?
Absolutely. I mean, of course, our website, again, has information about how to contact us. There's a customer service email. There's a phone number. You can engage with us in our board meetings. So as a public agency, all of our board meetings are public. You can come in person. We do those board meetings in Oakland, and you can also participate via Zoom. So we try to make it easy. You can hear about the various agenda items that we have. You can make public comment if there are important matters to flag publicly. So that's an important part of being a public agency and ensuring that there's accessibility to all of our community members.
Thank you. Wonderful. So your community sponsorship grant is currently accepting applications, it looks like, on the website. Can you tell us about that and who would be eligible for it?
Absolutely. Those are, of course, on a slightly smaller scale than those community innovation grants. We're working with a larger organization for a number of years. These grants are ones that we hold grant rounds multiple times throughout the year, and they're really working with smaller organizations. They're working with schools, they're working with sports programs, art programs, music, STEM, you kind of name it. These are $2,500 grant sizes, so smaller grants, of course, but we're trying to find ways that we can support smaller organizations that would benefit from some of these dollars. And so that's open right now, as you had noted. We typically do about a dozen organizations per round, and we try to kind of rotate through and make sure we're getting good coverage throughout all of our service territory, all of our cities and counties to ensure that we're supporting these great organizations and the great work that they're doing.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope people listening, take advantage of that, especially the arts ones. I know our arts community is always looking for, more funding, more ways to get support. So thank you for sharing that. So we've been talking about how Ava is the default electricity provider in Stockton. You have already mentioned that people can switch back to PG&E if they prefer. Can you please tell us how someone might do that if they want to, and whether there's any cost involved?
Absolutely. So we try to make it easy and as transparent as possible. Go to our website, as I've been referencing for most information. It's a wealth of information. You can see the options there very easily in terms of how to go online and searching for sort of opting out of our service if that's of interest to you. In that, you can see there's a web form option, so you can click a few buttons. You do have to enter your account number, so of course you'll want to have your PG&E bill. If you want to make a choice to opt up, if you want to make a choice to opt down, if you want to make a choice to opt out, you can do all of those things on the website directly. You'll also find on the website, of course, a phone number that you can call as well if that's your preferred way to communicate. So both of those avenues are really easy. We try to keep it simple.
Thank you. And thanks for the transparency, just in case anyone's wondering, that's how you can do that. So what is something you think people would be surprised to know about Ava Community Energy or about renewable energy in general?
Yeah, maybe I'll highlight one in each of those. The first I'll say is if you look at the ISO, the Independent System Operator, that's probably a little bit too wonky to go into, but there's information in California that shares what sources of electricity are generating the power right now. And one interesting fact, I always oftentimes will open up an app on your phone. Actually, it's called ISO, and right now 86% of the electricity that's being generated in the state is coming from renewable energy or large hydro. So I think that's just awesome to highlight when you think about right now. It's 10:30 a.m. in the state of California. The sun is shining. There's just great renewable energy, clean resources that are generating really the bulk of the electricity. That's been obviously increasing over the years. On the Ava side of things, I mentioned this a little bit before, but I'll just note there's a lot of programs out there that we're really trying to enable and promote. And so for anyone that has some type of interest related to electricity in any way, shape, or form, it's just a great resource to get on and evaluate. And as I noted before, that we've got our e-bike incentive program, we've got our managed charging program, we've got information about induction cooktops. So maybe the surprising thing I'll just say is you'd be shocked at how much we're trying to cover here within Ava Community Energy. It's not just about your electricity service and your electricity bill. It's about these programs that we think are a lot more tangible for customers. And you may not think to seek that information traditionally from your utility or your energy provider, but I really encourage people to check out what we have on our website to sort of learn more about some of those opportunities.
Thank you. In your own words, why is using clean energy or renewable energy important for people to think about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's so many reasons to highlight. Obviously, I think what I try to simplify and say is that we can see the impacts in Northern California of climate change. The temperatures are just getting hotter. The droughts are getting worse. We're seeing the prevalence of wildfires increase year after year, unfortunately. And so it's really important that we find ways to decarbonize our electricity supply. And I think Ava Community Energy is doing a great job at that. California has always been a leader at that. I just noted the stat of 86% of our energy right now is coming from clean or renewable resources. I think it's a really impressive and important number. And there's a lot more that we all need to collectively do. So I think that's a really important part of it. And I think local air pollution is a huge part of it. That's the area that we talk to a lot of our local constituents. You talk to anyone that's got a gas plant peaker in their communities, and they'll tell you, it's not about climate change, it's about local air quality, right? And we have to think about that importantly in addition to climate change, because it's both of these aspects. And what I'm excited to say is that you can address these issues while still providing reliable and affordable power, right? We've been able to do it. The state of California has been able to do it. Obviously, we have to be responsible and really conscious of how we continue to build those resources and making sure we are able to balance the various needs of our communities. But I think we are a success story in how we've been able to make great progress as a leader in renewable energy. And I think we're finding ways to do that more affordably even as well.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that a little more. Why is this such an important thing to think about, clean energy, renewable energy in our community? And since we have welcomed Ava as our default provider of electricity, you've been, coming to Stockton, visiting Stockton. How familiar are you with downtown Stockton? And what do you like about downtown as a visitor?
Well, I have to admit, I can familiarize myself more. I'm not a Stockton resident. I've really enjoyed my visits there, having various meetings, getting to know the community, going to some of the events. It's been awesome. It's been downtown Stockton specifically has been really easy to navigate for one, easy to get around, find my way around as someone new to the area, and the people are super friendly. So I've really loved anyone I've chatted with at the coffee shops, grabbing lunch. It's always a really friendly environment. I've enjoyed some good coffee at Impresso Coffee House there a few times. Grabbed a good sandwich at Fed. But I have to admit, I need more time there, and I want to get to know the area even better. I'll be out there for lunch in about another week or so. So any tips that you have or any of your viewers have for your favorite place to get a bite? Love to hear it and love to start sampling more and more there.
Yeah, I think you've already tried Fed, so that's a good one. You might want to check out Cast Iron or Alfalfa's if you want pizza, or Nena's, if you're craving some Mexican. But there's a lot of options here. So the more you're here, the more you can try.
Awesome. I will start building my list of places to check out.
Your downtown favorites.
Yes.
So, is Ava Community Energy hiring, or do you have any volunteer positions open?
We are actively hiring. We've been growing as an organization. We're only about 90 plus people, so we are fairly leanly staffed for the services that we provide, and we've been growing. You can go to our website, as I've been saying, great resource there. You can see some of the different job postings that we have in different areas in terms of different sort of functional teams. In terms of volunteer positions, one of the best ways to engage is actually through our community advisory committee. So we actually have a group that actually people in the community can actually apply to be part of that group, and they can participate in a monthly meeting. Whether you're a part of that group or whether you just want to participate and hear about what is being discussed and what are the different priorities and matters that are being reviewed among staff and the what's referred to as the CAC or the Community Advisory Committee, you can do either, right? So you can take a lighter touch and simply participate in a board meeting or attend a CAC meeting. You can share some thoughts and hear about what's going on. And if you want to invest a little bit more time, of course, that is something that you can apply for. I think we're taking new applications in the fall, and we typically have a mix of representatives through our service territory because, again, we want to understand what the community needs are, and that's a great way to engage in a volunteer role.
Thank you. Thanks for telling us there are volunteer opportunities available. Visit the website to learn more about how to access that. And so how can people get in touch with you if they want to ask questions or learn more about Ava or the work that you're doing?
Absolutely. Obviously, you can call us, as I noted. We've got a phone number online. You can email us. So you can email us at customer-service@avaenergy.org. And then again, the website itself, if you're not necessarily needing to contact us, but rather just want to find some information, there's a lot of information about our various events. You can come to our events. You can meet our various representatives that are based in Stockton that are trying to get the name out and educate our customers at the various tables and booths at some of the different festivals. And of course, as I noted, you can watch or even attend a board meeting and engage directly with us in that forum.
Which would be kind of fun, get a little insight into how Ava's operating. All right, well, that was the list of questions that I had outlined for you. At this time, let's go ahead and see if there are any viewer questions. All right, looks like we've got some comments. So here's one. This is on YouTube from Mike Huber. He says, "Hi, Howard. I'm wondering if there will ever be a time when Ava will be completely independent of PG&E."
So maybe the distinction I'll say is that Ava Community Energy is entirely independent from PG&E. We're a public agency, we're a nonprofit. We operate and run ourselves independently on the energy generation services. I think this question may be getting more at, is there a time that customers won't be served by PG&E? Right now, that is not the case. The sort of CCA model is that we provide the generation services, and PG&E will continue to provide those services related to transmission, distribution, metering. So really the lines and wires services. That's a very different scope of work than than the sort of buying the energy generation aspect. So will there ever be a time? Certainly that is a possibility. I know there are efforts by various cities that actually want to municipalize and take over that lines and wires portion of the services. That is not Ava's focus on it. So for that part of it, I don't expect us to take that over. But as an entity, we do operate totally independently from PG&E. Despite our charge being on the PG&E bill, that's really just sort of a pass-through cost there. We operate independently.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you for the question. All right. So this is another question from Jewel on YouTube. The question is, do I need to do anything to sign up, or is it automatic?
It is automatic. The good news is you don't need to lift a finger to start receiving Ava services. And in fact, you probably already have in April if you were a customer. And that's all the way the CCAs are set up. So because it was your city that elected to be a member to our CCA, you have the sort of the seamless benefit of just transitioning right over to Ava services for the generation portion of the bill, of course.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you, Jewel, for your question. So here is another question from Jewel on YouTube. And it is, are there any local festivals coming up where we can learn more about Ava Community Energy? Sounds like yes, but maybe you can mention a couple of them.
Absolutely. You know, the list is too long to list them all. And like I've said, we do have an events page on our website where you can kind of see all the various events that we'll be attending. I think the next upcoming one in Stockton specifically is the Juneteenth celebration. So we'll be there on June 14th and 15th. We'll also be at the Stockton Cargo versus Pleasanton Rage soccer game. So you can see us there. We're a sponsor of that event, but we typically will table at that event as well early on. And we're always trying to hand out some sunglasses or give you a pamphlet to just educate a little bit more on who we are. And you'll see throughout the summer, we've got various events that we'll continue to be at throughout our service territory. So whether you're in Oakland, Fremont, or Lathrop, or Stockton, you can kind of see us scattered around, and we'll hope you'll find ways to engage us wherever you see us.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for the question. So I'll give people a chance to type in their questions if they haven't yet. And while I do, I just want to remind everyone that this video has been streaming live to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, where we are at downtown Stockton. So please, like, follow, subscribe, and share this video with anyone who you think might, get something out of it, learning about Ava Community Energy. Maybe they've been having questions about this change. So please share the video. And let's see, it looks like we've got one last comment before we go out. Okay, so this is from Jewel again on YouTube. This person says, it's so cool. Exciting. Thank you. Thanks for your comment.
That's the best comment I've gotten. So we love that enthusiasm and that excitement, and we share that as well as your new electricity provider. So looking forward to new opportunities to engage with your communities.
Thank you. So Howard, I appreciate your time today, and I learned a lot about Ava as well as the work you're already doing in Stockton, and that makes me really excited that we have you as our default provider. It's just really wonderful to hear everything that you guys are doing, and it's also cool to know that you're so focused on renewable energy, clean energy. Just sounds like you guys are doing some awesome work. Is there anything that you'd like to share with viewers before we close out today?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on with you and your viewers. It's been a great opportunity to just share a little bit more about myself and Ava Community Energy. Maybe the last thing I'll just say is I know it's not very often or common that a city or a resident or a business will get a new utility provider, right? You don't typically switch who provides your water or your energy. So this is a unique time where Ava can come in, and we want to make sure that we're building trust with you, right? We are a new public agency for the city of Stockton, and trust is so important when it comes to energy. And we know that there's been a little bit of erosion of trust over the last number of years. And so we're here to really try to build that trust. We want to be transparent. We want to be open and honest about everything that we're doing, and that's the benefit of being a nonprofit public agency that your city has decided to be a member of. And so, if you want to engage with us, if you want to learn more, please, check out our website. Please come to a board meeting. That's what we're trying to do, is really build a community and find ways to invest in our community. So, thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Howard, and thank you, viewers, for tuning in. And with that, I will just say, Have a great day downtown. Thanks, everyone.